I've spent over 50 hours learning everything there is to know about Redstone, and today I'm going to be teaching it all to you. We'll explain how every single Redstone component in the game works, and after that I'll show you 18 different useful Redstone contraptions, like auto sorters, hidden doors, lever locks, and so much more. Now this video is quite long, but feel free to check the timestamps below and skip to whatever Redstone component you want to understand. As well, this video is for Bedrock Redstone and will vary slightly for Java Edition, but you can still get a ton of useful information. With that, let's start all the way down here with Redstone. Now, right before we get into that, I just want to tell you guys that at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how to activate Redstone, the differences between the buttons, how all of these pressure plates act differently, and a couple other cool things that you might want to know. So starting off with Redstone, something I want you guys to understand really quickly is there's a Redstone tick and a game tick. A game tick happens 20 times a second, and a Redstone tick is going to be half the speed. You don't actually have to understand this, just know if I ever mention a tick throughout the video, I'm talking about the redstone. Now to keep it simple, redstone is essentially the electricity of Minecraft. Now redstone can be mined underground with a pickaxe. It can also be obtained by killing a witch, which has a 100% chance of dropping redstone, or as well you can come over to a cleric villager with a brewing stand, and there you go, you can also trade for some redstone dust. Now, redstone has a signal strength of 15, meaning when you have redstone lit, it is going to travel 15 blocks, with the signal getting weaker and weaker, and once it gets to the 16th block, it is going to turn off, as you can see there. So, let's say I wanted to light my big fancy sign back there. I light it, well, that's much further than 15 blocks, so unfortunately this is not going to work. So how do we get the signal all the way over there? We come over to a redstone repeater. Now, redstone repeaters are super cool. They repeat the redstone signal. All you do is you take this little guy, you can place it on the 16th block, or you can place it before if you want. It's going to reset the redstone signal, and there you go, it is shooting out 15 again. So you can light stuff further. In my case, I can light my redstone lamp. Now, repeaters can go through solid blocks into more redstone. However, they cannot travel through transparent blocks. As well, a redstone signal can travel through a block into a redstone repeater, but again, this can't be transparent. Now, there's a front and a back. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that you send it into the back side of the repeater, because if you send it into the front, the signal is just simply not going to go through. As well, redstone repeaters have different ticks, which are different delays. So the original one is going to be 0.1, and then every time you click this, that's going to add 0.1 of a second all the way down until here, and that is the greatest distance, the longest delay. And you can pretty easily see that when I click this, that one is turning on much later. Now, something else super useful about repeaters is you can actually lock the signal. So as you can see, this is turned on. When I flick another redstone repeater that's facing into the side, it's going to look like this, and it's going to lock the signal. And now if I actually turn this one off, the signal is going to stay on until I flick the lever again. Now this becomes super useful if you're using a button, because normally the signal would turn off. But if I do this and lock the signal, as you can see, it's going to stay on, and then you have to unlock this. As well, if it's locked, no redstone signal can get through. Now, knowing all of that about redstone repeaters, let's come back to our fancy pantsy sign, where you can see I've placed some redstone repeaters every 16-ish blocks. And bada boom, bada bing, there you go. Subscribe. This sign took me 2.5 hours, guys, so I just wanted to mention that. Anyways, that took way too long. Anyways, coming over to Redstone Comparators. Now, something I want to say about these guys is they have so many uses. I mean, there's a ton to cover here. So if you want to figure these out, I've covered literally everything there is, so just make sure to stick around for this part. So to put simply, the Redstone Comparator is going to take in a redstone signal, and it's going to output the same thing. So this redstone signal is taking, or it's going in 11, so it's going to output the exact same 11, and that's literally what it is. But there are so many implications of the comparator that I'm going to show you guys right now. Starting off though, there's a rear, which is where you want the signal to come from, the 2 prongs. There's going to be 2 sides, and then there's also going to be the front of the redstone comparator, as you can see right there. Now, redstone signal has to go in the rear. It cannot go in the front, as you can see here. Now there's 2 different modes. There's going to be redstone torch off and redstone torch on. Redstone Torch off is going to be comparison mode, and then there's going to be subtraction mode. However, neither of these modes are going to matter unless you have a signal going into the side of the comparator. So let's start over here at comparison mode, where if the rear signal, so this signal strength is going to be 15. If it is greater than or equal to the side, it's just going to output the back one. So this is 15, which is greater than 14. And so this is simply going to output 15, right? It's going to output the back since it's greater than the side. However, if the rear is bigger, or if the rear, sorry, I can't read. If the rear is smaller than the side, it's simply not going to output. So over here, it output the rear signal. However, since over here, the rear input's 13, but the side input, oh, I don't have a torch, is actually 14. As you can see, it is not going to output a redstone signal. So the back is greater, it goes through, but if the side signal strength is stronger, it's going to completely cut off the connection. It compares. That's comparison mode. Now, coming back here into subtraction mode, it basically just subtracts. So it takes the rear and it subtracts the side signal, right? So a signal strength of 15 minus a signal strength of 14. 15 minus 14 is 1. As you can see, there's a 1 signal strength. And of course, the more that I change this, now that's going to be 2, that's going to be 3, so on and so forth. It's pretty self-explanatory. It subtracts the signal. However, if the side is greater than the rear, once again, there's just going to be no output because it can't have a negative output, right? 15 minus 14 is -1. That's not going to work. So there you go. That is comparison mode and subtraction mode. Let's get into a bunch of cool things you can do with comparators now. First of all, useful use number 1, by putting it into subtraction mode, you can make a really easy redstone clock just because of the way subtraction mode works. So there you go. That's pretty cool. Useful use number 2, and this is what all of this is going to be about, is it can not only take in a redstone signal, but it can take in like so many different things. For example, if an item is inside of a chest, I put an item inside of that chest, and there you go. It is now outputting a redstone signal. And this is going to work differently for however many items you have inside of this chest. So let me just grab a bunch of a random item. The more items that you have inside of here, the more redstone signal it's going to output. And the amount that it outputs depends on if these are 64 stacks, if they're 16, how many item slots are inside of the container. There's a bunch of different things, but pretty much the more full the container is, the more redstone signal is going to be outputted. Because as you can see, I take some of this out and the redstone signal goes down until there's nothing inside. So that's super, super cool. Now, let's come over to here where you can see if there's a redstone signal going into the side of this, this is outputting 15. So if you remember back there, this will have to output 15 because it has to be equal to put anything here. In other words, let me grab this again. This chest isn't outputting anything because it's missing 1 block, but the second it is completely full, it is now going to output a redstone signal. If there's a little bit out, it's not going to work. Put some in, and there you go. It's outputting something, which is super cool. And the same thing also works through, I keep getting rid of this. The same thing also works through a block, if you're wondering, so it doesn't have to be completely touching. Now, this doesn't just work on chests. It works on chests, trap chests, all the different types of furnaces, the dispenser and the dropper, shulker box, a barrel, a hopper, crafter, brewing stand, decorated pot, and I mean just so many more things. For example, it's also going to work with a detector rail, which I'm going to show you guys a lot later, but it's going to work detecting if something is inside of a hopper minecart, as you can see there. It's also going to work with how much cake has been eaten off of a cake, and it's going to output different redstone strengths. It's also going to work with water inside of a cauldron. It's also going to work with how much stuff is inside of a composter, and it's all going to output different strengths. The same thing is going to work if there's items inside of an item frame, including the rotation of that item up to a signal strength of, I believe, 7 or 8. 8, yeah. And then it resets back to 1. So there's a lot of cool things you can do. And I mean, that's not even close to it. There's so many more things. Jukeboxes, bee nests, beehives, target blocks. I mean, if you guys really want to come and figure out all of these things, you can actually download this world that I'm playing on down in the description where you can explore all of this stuff for yourself. So if you care enough to read through all of these, then go ahead and do that. This isn't even all of it. There are so many things that the comparator can do. So yeah, there's comparators for you guys. It definitely gets really confusing, so I hope I explained it simply enough. Now let's move on to the Redstone Torch, which is very, very useful. Pretty much, it's just gonna send a constant redstone signal. That's about it. Sends a signal of 15. It can be placed on the side of blocks. It can be placed on the top. It can be placed underneath the block to light redstone above. It can also be placed on the side right here to light a redstone above. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use redstone torches. As well, they can be placed here and activate stuff to the side. However, it cannot activate stuff below, and it cannot activate stuff above and kind of to the diagonal, as you can see here. If I wanted this to light, it would have to be directly on top of it. Now, it can also kind of go away like this. So if you place it there and you place it a block away, that also works. And as well, there's this cool little thing where if you have redstone torches on a block and then you power that block, it's actually going to turn the redstone torches off. And this is called soft inversion. As you can see, every time I flick this, it's going to turn it off. This is a very useful mechanic, for example, in redstone torch towers, where as you can see, you're able to send a redstone signal up by using redstone torches. This is two different ways that you can do it. And every time I flick this, it's just going to invert that redstone signal. So very, very useful there. And as you can see, all of the redstone torches are like changing their state to on or to off. Now as well, this can also work down with a design like this, right? Or if you don't want to use redstone torches at all, you can just place slabs going up like this, and that's also going to send the redstone signal up. Or what you can actually do is have glass like this, where it also sends the redstone signal up. But a cool one about this is it also sends the redstone signal down, which is also very, very useful. Now, coming over here, as you can see, redstone torches also are going to take a second to work. It's not going to be instant. It kind of works like a repeater where you can see it is a little bit delayed moving down the line. So that's pretty cool. Now, something really interesting about redstone torches is they can be used for stuff like this. Now, there's going to be a torch burnout loop, which pretty much is going to light the redstone torch, light the redstone, light the torch, light the redstone over and over and over. And it's just going to do this. And then eventually it's just going to burn out. So I don't know how you can use that, but it's still kind of interesting. Redstone torches have a ton of uses. One, for example, is going to be with piston doors. Now, let's say you have a door here. Unfortunately, every time we click this button, it closes, but we want it to open, right? So what we can actually do is light both of these pistons with a redstone torch. And then once you hit that button, it inverts the redstone signal, and it pretty much just opens up the door and you can walk through. If you want to learn how to build this, I'm going to show you guys that at the very end of the video. Now, moving on from that to a very useful item, the observer, and we absolutely love the observer. It does exactly what it sounds like. It observes things, but put more specifically, it observes a block change. Now, this looks like a face, and that's because it is a face. If any block updates in front of here, it's going to send a redstone signal out the back, as you can see, and this works with a ton of different things. So like I said, it's any block updating. So if a block gets placed, if a block gets broken. It also works with pistons opening and closing, with piston doors. The same thing is going to work if crops are bone mealed. As you can see, every time I bone meal that, it goes off. And this is really cool for having something like an automatic sugarcane farm, where every time it grows, it is simply just going to use the piston and break it. And the same thing also works with having an observer looking at grass, and then when the sheep eats it, sends a signal up to a dispenser and shears the sheep. So they're great for automatic farms. Now, it is not going to work with items in and out of a hopper. However, it will detect if a hopper is locked or if a hopper is unlocked, and I'll get a lot more into hoppers in just a minute. Now, it does not detect chests opening. However, it does detect if an item goes into the chest, and it also detects if the item goes out of the chest, as you can see there. The exact same thing works with shulker boxes. However, with barrels, it can actually detect if barrels are opened. So with these two, it doesn't detect if it gets opened, but with the barrel, it does detect that, as well as if items go in and out. So that can be kind of useful. Now, they can be used for a lot of cool things. For example, the easiest redstone clock in the world. You place one that way, you place another looking at the other. They go off each other, they see each other, and there you go. You have a beautiful redstone clock where you can do, oh, I broke that, where you can do a bunch of different cool things with it. Now as well, unfortunately, this is always going to be off, so you can set it up with a piston, and bada boom, bada bing, you now have a perfect dispensing system with an on and off switch. There are so many things you can do with observers, and we're going to be using them a lot throughout this video. All right, now moving on to the piston, they are also almost just as useful as the observer, if not even more useful. The piston is going to be crafted like this, and the sticky piston is going to be crafted with a piston and a slime ball. Now, the only difference between these two, the piston is just going to push, and that's it. However, the sticky piston is going to push, and it's going to pull the block back, which is very cool. Now, pistons can push a maximum of 12 blocks. So as you can see, 12 blocks over here, it is able to push it. However, a sticky piston is only going to pull back the block that it's touching. If it's more than 12 blocks, say this one is 13, it's just not going to do anything at all. So 12 blocks is going to be the maximum. Now, there are a ton of items that cannot be pushed in Bedrock Edition, and here's a list from the wiki right now. I'm not going to get into all of them because there's too many. And as well, there's a bunch of items that are going to be broken instead of being pushed, and here's a list from the wiki as well. Now, when it comes to lighting pistons, or I guess activating them, you can have a redstone signal from pretty much any side. You can have it on the side, you can have it on the top, on the back, you can even have it underneath, and this is all going to extend the piston. You can have it behind a block, you can have it behind a piece of redstone. There are so many ways that you can light pistons. Now, going back to that soft inversion, again, if you flick this piston, it is going to extend out and deactivate those redstone torches. However, this is nothing special to the piston because the same thing is going to happen with just a regular block. Still important to note though. Now, let's say I wanted to move this block here that is diagonal to the sticky piston. It's not going to work. What you can do is either take a slime block or a honey block, and these are actually going to attach to the side block. And there you go. As you can see, we're now moving both of those blocks, and the same thing is going to work with the honey. So it's pretty cool there. However, this is not going to work on the ground because technically the slime is connected to the ground. And as you can see, there's a lot more than 12 blocks down here. So that's that. Now, some other cool things, pistons can also move chests. However, it is going to separate a double chest into a single chest. And as well, pistons can move other pistons, which can then be extended. However, it cannot move an extended piston. So if the piston's already extended, it's not going to be able to move it or pull it back. Right? So kind of cool there. Now, pistons are very cool and can be used for things like this. A simple block swap. Now, this is a little complicated, although I have made it very simple for you guys at the end of the video, again, if you want to learn how to build this simple block swap. So there you go. Pistons are extremely useful, and once again, we're going to be using them a ton throughout this video. All right, let's move on to another big section, hoppers. And again, there's a lot here, but it's because I've just explained everything about them. I'm going to make it as simple as possible. In essence, hoppers are going to collect items that land on top of them. So I don't know if you guys caught that. It landed on top, and there you go. The item went into the hopper. And this is really good for any automatic chest system. As you can see, you throw items into the top, and it deposits it through the stick into the chest down here. Beautiful. Now, this also works. It can pull from containers on top of it. So as you can see, there's items up there, and it's going to go down into this chest. And the same thing works if you have it in this orientation. Speaking of which, hoppers can be placed on any side of a container. You can place it on the top. You can place it on the side leading into it. However, it cannot be placed underneath the chest. Let me show you guys this really quickly. It cannot be placed underneath like this. That's not going to work. Now, coming over to here, if you want to have a large collection system, what you can actually do is place hoppers leading down like this. Even though this is facing into the chest, when items are thrown into the top one, the hopper is going to grab it first, and it's going to go into this bottom chest. And then once that fills up, it'll go into here. Once that fills up, it'll go into that top one. And this is used for almost every, farm, mob farm, gold farm, anything like that. Now, something else cool, hoppers can go into other hoppers, right? So I put them in here. They're going to lead all the way down to the end right here. Now, moving on from the basics to a lot of cool stuff, you can actually lock and unlock a hopper. So let's say you have an item inside of here. This is a hopper loop. So it's literally just going to be going in a circle forever. However, by activating this hopper with redstone, there you go. I've now locked this hopper. Stuff can go in, but stuff cannot go out. And as well, no items can be picked up from the top. And then once you actually unlock it, boom, there you go. Now everything is working properly again. Now, this is very useful for stuff like this, but it's important to note that if this is locked, items can, like I mentioned, still go into it, but they're not going to go into the chest until I unlock it, and then the items will move through. So let me lock both of these hoppers really quickly. As you can see, throwing an item on that one, throwing an item on that one. It's not even going to go in this one, first of all. And this one will be able to go all the way down to the very bottom because you cannot lock hoppers from taking into other hoppers. So even if you lock this, it can still go into another hopper. And if I unlock this one, there you go. Now it's going down into that chest. So locking and unlocking, there's a lot you can do. It's pretty easy, but very useful. As well, hoppers cannot pick up through blocks, as you can see there. Let me grab a bunch of things. However, it can pick up through blocks that are smaller than regular. So that's going to be like mud, soul sand, or any of the items that are like visibly shorter. As you can see, when I throw it on top, that is going to go into the hopper, and that's going to work for every single one of these, including snow, including carpets, including hopper minecarts, and as well, they can be pulled from hopper chests. And all of those items did go down into their corresponding hopper. So yeah, that's pretty useful as well. Now, hoppers, they get even more advanced than that. Coming over here, I think I have this locked. Yeah, so I have a bunch of sunflowers inside of here. Let's say you just throw a bunch of random things that you want to compost up here, right? It's going to put all of them into the composter. And then this hopper underneath here is actually going to pull the items out of the composter and put it down inside of that chest. So there you go. You are now automatically composting things. The same thing works with the furnace. However, a furnace has a top and a bottom. On the top, you have to put the item you want to smelt. And on the bottom, you have to have it coming out either the back or one of the sides for the fuel. Now, the problem is if I were to put the fuel up here, then it's going to be put into this top slot, and that is not going to smelt. And as you can see, unlocking both of these, it's now automatically going to be pulled in. It's going to smelt it properly. And once this item finishes smelting, it's going to be pulled from this bottom hopper, as you can see, and go down into this bottom chest. This is really, really good for super smelters, which I will again show you at the end of the video. Now as well, this exact same thing works for brewing stands, right? So you're going to have the gunpowder up here in the top spot, and it's then going to go into here, or, you know, whatever item you want to put there. And then as for blaze powder or the water bottles, you're not going to be able to put them in the top. You're going to have to put them again into the back or the side, and that will lead it into the corresponding spot. So there we go. Now these hoppers are also going to work for so many different things, like cauldrons, chiseled bookshelves, pulling out the books from there, dispensers, droppers, like a lot of different things, discs, shulker boxes. Hoppers are going to work for pretty much every type of container that exists, and even more. Now these are great for things like auto sorters, which once again, I'm going to show you how to build at the end of the video, but let me show you how this works really quickly. Let's say you have a bunch of random items. You put it up into, oh, there's no chest up here. You put it up into this top chest, all of those items. They're going to be automatically sorted into their corresponding chest. So diamonds went there. Emeralds are filling up here. Gold is going to fill up in this one. And then if you have an item like cobblestone that doesn't fit your area, it's all going to go down into the garbage chest. Now this is super interesting, very, very useful, and you should all know how to build this thing. Now, moving on from that, sorry, I don't know why you're still here. Moving on from that, we can also use them for things like hopper clocks. This is very cool, right? Let's grab some items. This is a contraption that, once again, I'm going to show you how to build at the end of the video, if you want to stick around for that. But you can decide how often you want a redstone signal to be sent by putting items into a hopper. It gets moved to that one, moved over there, moved over there. And as you can see, this redstone signal is just going to go like this. The super nice thing about this is you can choose how many items you have inside of here. So if you want it to be longer, just put, you know, a ton of items inside of this area. So hoppers are very useful and used for a ton of different mechanics. So moving on from hoppers, we're going to have the rail, powered rail, the detector rail, and the activator rail. Starting off with the regular one, it's pretty simple. You have a minecart, you can get in it, and there you go. You can now move. Or if you're not in it, you can actually push it and it also moves. Pretty boring, so we're going to make it a lot more interesting with powered rails, which is going to power the rail. And now, there you go, you're able to move much, much faster. However, these are going to need some sort of redstone signal And as you can see down there, if it doesn't have a redstone signal, moving up to it, it's just going to stop you in place, which can be very useful if you want to stop people on tracks at specific points. As well, something cool about these is they can be lit underground, so you don't have to have the redstone source above ground. And as well, if there's a block at the end with the powered rail, it's just going to bounce back and forth indefinitely. So that's kind of cool. Now, one redstone source can actually power 17 rails. So as you can see, they kind of connect to each other. It's going to power 17 rails like this. However, this is a huge waste of gold. You do not want to use this many rails. So what you actually want to do is use 3 power rails at the very start of your track, followed by 37 regular rails, and then 1 powered rail, and then 37 and 1 powered rail. And this is just because you need to get momentum. So if I get inside of here, as you can see, it's going to go perfectly, and it's barely going to slow down, and then I'm going to hit the next rail. It's to maximize speed while making sure that you're not going to, waste literally all of your gold. Is this completely pointless? So you want to do it like that. Now, moving on to the detector rail, it's going to produce a redstone signal when a minecart rolls over top of it. So as you can see, if I push this around, the second it goes over top, it's going to produce a redstone signal. And there you go. That's about it. It's very, very simple, but also super useful. Now, like I showed you earlier, these detector rails can also be used with a hopper minecart to detect when it's on top. And then by putting a comparator like this, it can actually detect when items are inside of it. However, this does have to be a detector rail. Let's say that I did this with just a normal rail. It is not going to be able to detect it. So it's going to have to be a detector rail. Makes sense. It detects the items. Finally, coming over to the activator rail, it does have a couple different features. The first one, it's actually going to eject you from the minecart. So let's say you're going normally. If it's not powered, well, nothing's going to happen. However, if you then light this on, as you can see, once I go over it, it's going to instantly kick me out of the minecart. And something else that's a little more fun than that, it is also going to activate minecart with TNT. And I really hope that doesn't blow that up over there. There you go. It's going to light TNT. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with the activator rail. Now, I also want to talk about minecarts a little bit in this section. The hopper and the chest minecarts. Now, let's say you have a lot of items up here in some sort of farm or literally whatever it is. You have a lot of items up there. You want to collect them from underneath, but a hopper can't be placed underneath to collect it. And also, you don't want to place, 20,000 hoppers. What you can do is take a hopper minecart. It's then going to pick the items up from up top. And there you go. It is now going to deposit those items into a hopper, as you can see down there. And that'll go down into I don't have a chest, but you get my point. It goes down into the hopper, right? The same thing works with chest minecarts. They can carry items across tracks. And if you want to put items into them, you can just put items in a hopper and it'll lead them into that chest. Now, moving back to rails, there's a bunch of different ways that rails are going to work. Now, first of all, rails can go up and down blocks. And as well, rails are able to turn. However, only the regular type of rail can turn. The other 3 types cannot. So as you can see, this can turn. The powered rail can't. The activator rail, no. And the detector rail also cannot curve. So if you want to curve a track, you're going to have to use a regular rail. Which reminds me, you can also use a lever if you have an intersection like this to turn the rail. And now you can kind of be a conductor. However, something else super cool is this obviously is going to go with the curve. However, if you want to push a minecart on this track, it's going to jump the track and actually continue in the direction. And then by flicking the lever, obviously, you can get it to turn. So that is pretty cool in redirecting the way that minecarts work. Now as well, minecarts are affected by momentum. In other words, if you're going up, you're going to move super slow. And if you're going down, you're going to move super fast. However, something interesting that other people, that's cute. Something else that people also don't know is that they're going to move faster or slower depending on if it's a hopper or a chest, they're going to move fast. Or if you're sitting inside, it's going to move fast. But if it's empty, that hopper minecart is actually going to move significantly slower than the other 2. That's kind of a cool feature as well. However, like I mentioned, if I was sitting inside of this minecart here, I'm going to move at the same speed as those other ones over there. So it's a momentum-based item. And there you go. That's pretty much everything about rails and minecarts that you're going to need to know. Now, really quickly, I've only covered a couple of the redstone components here, and there is still a ton to go, including showing you how to build all the redstone contraptions. So if you're enjoying, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for weekly videos just like this one. And as well, once again, you could download this exact world here. That is going to be down in the description. I'd highly recommend doing that. You can test out all of these redstone mechanics for yourself. That was not real English. Anyways, let's move over to these two beautiful guys right here. I always mix up which is which. So this is going to be the dispenser, and that is going to be the dropper. They're very similar, but also very uniquely different. Simply put, the dispenser dispenses things and the dropper drops things. Well, what does this mean? Well, I'm going to show you more, but for example, let's say you have a flint and steel in both of these. The dropper spits it out, and the dispenser is actually going to use the flint and steel. All right, so this dropped the item, and this interacted with the world. Now, this works for a ton of different things. Let's start off with the dropper, the basic one. Now, you can actually have a dropper, and you can have items inside and shoot those items into a container. As you can see, flicking this lever a bunch, it's shooting the items into this container, and this works with any type of container, barrel, chest, another dropper, whatever you want. Now, this also works from underneath, which can be super useful, and this also works from the side, which can also be super, super useful. Now, there's also something called a dropper pipe, where dropper pipe, where it's going to take an item and it's going to shoot it into another dropper, into another dropper, into another dropper. Now, you have to send a redstone signal to all of these. If you want to do it like this with repeaters getting a little bit slower, that's going to work, and it'll shoot it out the other end. However, most people are going to want to do this for more than 4 blocks. So what you can actually do is just make a simple redstone clock. Remember this one that I showed you earlier? And if I do this and I do that, it's then going to take all of those, and no matter what now, it's just going to shoot whatever item I put inside of there through all the droppers and out the very end. It's called a dropper pipe. And the cool thing is it also works up, which I'm going to show you in a second. First of all, though, dropper pipes are useful, but you can also just kind of spit the items into water. So, use whichever one is best for you. Now, this is called a Droppervator, which I'm going to show you how to build once again at the end of the video. But pretty much, you take your item, you put it into this chest, a bunch of cool stuff happens, and it gets shot up, and there you go. All of the items are now being shot up. It's a Droppervator. It's a dropper elevator. And then, of course, once the items run out, it is simply going to stop spitting them out. So super cool build, and honestly, it's more fun than anything else. Now, let's come over to the dispenser and show you how it is different. So, like I said, a dispenser interacts with the world around you. So, unlike a dropper, which if you spit out armor, would simply spit it into your inventory, if you stand in front of a dispenser, it's actually going to equip the armor on you. It will equip the elytra onto you, and so many more useful things. Let me take these off because they're annoying. Right, so for example, in here, it can spit out water, and it can pick the water back up where a dropper would just throw out the bucket. It can also shoot fireworks, which is a lot of fun. It can also shoot arrows, which can be used for traps and stuff like that. It can shoot splash potions. It can even shoot bone meal onto crops. So dispensers, they interact with the world, and they're very, very cool. Now as well, what you can do is take some observers like we showed you earlier, or any type of redstone clock, put them like that, and there you go. You can now shoot out a bunch of items. And if you want, you can also have a piston system like this for a start and stop switch. So this will also work with droppers, by the way. This isn't dispenser specific. So there you go. Droppers and dispensers. Droppers just kind of drop the item, and dispensers are going to interact with the world around you. Now let's move on to a couple really fun ones, the Sculk Sensor and then the Calibrated Sculk Sensor. These are new to Minecraft 1.21. Now, Sculk Sensors are going to detect vibration or detect sound in an 8-block sphere. So nothing's going to be happening over here, but the second I go inside of this sphere, as you can see me walking around, me breaking a block, putting on armor, whatever it is going to send sound. And the further away you are, the less signal is going to be sent. And the closer you are, the more signal is going to be sent. And I'll show you guys that in just a second. So, something important to note is wool blocks are going to stop the transmission. So as you can see, walking around here or placing down a wool block doesn't do anything. And something else cool as well, this doesn't have to be completely surrounded. As you can see over here now, I can still jump and nothing's going to happen. but if I'm then in range, it is going to be able to see me. So this is going to send a redstone output. And so as you can see, the redstone signal depends on how far away the vibration is. So let's say I come over here to 8 blocks, it's only going to send a redstone signal of 1, right? So pretty simple. However, the closer you get, even just walking around, the more signal is going to be sent. And if you jump right on top of it, that's going to be a max signal of 15 blocks. And something else cool, if you stand right on top of it, it is going to make a repeating signal like this. Kind of cool. So there you go. That is the Sculk Sensor. Now let's move over to the Calibrated Sculk Sensor, which makes this thing literally 100 times cooler. This sensor can hear things that are 8 blocks away. The calibrated one can hear things that are 16 blocks away. So if I'm all the way back here, it's only going to send a signal to that one, not to that one. And as well, instead of this, which has a 2-second cooldown, this only has a 1-second cooldown. So as you can see, this one is being activated a lot more often. Now as well, it does send the same redstone signal, although again, you're going to have to be much further away to get a weaker signal, right? And then you're going to have to be a lot closer, again, standing on top to get a stronger signal. Now, coming over here, you can also power the crystal side of the calibrated Sculk sensor to stop the redstone signal from ever going through, or stop the vibration signal. So if that's off, you can see it gets sent through. But if you power that side of it, it is going to turn it off. Now I'm going to show you guys something really, really cool in a second. But first of all, this isn't just any redstone signal. It's also going to work with comparators. So let's say you have a lectern here. For every page of this that I read, that's going to send a 3 redstone signal. That's going to send 5. That's going to send 7, etc. So let's set it to a 5 redstone signal. Now, this is going to activate. It's never going to activate because it has to read exactly what this is, which is 5. So it's never going to activate anything unless you put on a piece of armor, because that is what a sound of 5 is. And there you go. That is now going to activate it. And of course, you can change this to whatever you want. Now, this is one of the most useful things in the game. And let me tell you why right now. So let's say you take a piece of armor, right? You're walking past this, and literally nothing's going on. You know, it just looks normal. Crafting table, furnace. Well, if I put on a piece of armor, boom, a hidden chest pops up. And there you go. You can now collect all of your goodies. And there you go. All you have to do is take off and put on your piece of armor again. It's going to send that signal. And there you go. It's going to go away. Now this redstone, this whole thing literally took me 2 hours to figure out because I kind of suck. I'm not going to show you how to build this. Once again, if you want to learn, you're going to have to download this world and check it out for yourself. So calibrated Sculk sensors, you can do some super, super cool things. Let's watch that one more time just because it took me so long to set up. There you go. Hidden chest pops up. Super cool mechanic. Now let's move on to something else that is also super cool, which is going to be the auto crafter, which does exactly what it sounds like. It automatically crafts things. So let's say I had a bunch of iron. I wanted to turn into iron blocks. You can put it into the crafter with a hopper on any side, but not the front. Let's put a little bit into there, a little bit into there. As you can see, it's all going to fill up into here. And then by activating a redstone source, it is going to craft that block. However, this isn't very automatic because we have to flick it. So to make it automatic, you can come over to this beautiful contraption right here. Now, this can be any block that outputs a 15 signal strength, because since that's going into the side, if you remember comparators, this also has to be 15, which will then send a redstone signal through to here, through to the repeater, back into here, and it is going to spit out the item. If that was confusing to you, pretty much you take all of your items, you put them inside of here, and once it's done, it's going to automatically shoot it out. Now, this is only going to work with every single spot filled. And by the way, since I just realized I haven't explained it, with a crafter, you can actually deactivate different slots, right? So you can deactivate all of these, and now the item would only flow inside of here. And the exact same thing works if you deactivate only those, it's only going to fill up there. Now, a great example of this is going to be in our gold XP farm. If you want to watch that video, you can watch it up here now. We crafted, you know, the nugget into the ingot, into the full block. Although this is iron, this was for gold, but whatever. You can kind of chain things together like this and have it work, which is super cool. Now, I'm going to be honest, I really suck at crafters and there's a lot to explain. If you guys want to understand these more, since that was a very vague description, I'd highly recommend going to Ray's video. It's also going to be linked down in the description. He has a really good tutorial on a bunch of different ways that you can use crafters. So if you want to learn more about these, just go to his video. For now, we are going to move on to the target block, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a target. So if you take any type of projectile, let's say you take a bow and you shoot it, it's going to output a redstone signal. Snowballs also work, but the strength of the signal depends on how close to the center you hit. So if I hit the very edge, it's going to do 1. If you hit the very center, that is going to output the maximum. Or if I can actually hit the center, it's kind of hard to get. I'm not going to be able to get it, but there you go. You can see the closer you are to the center, the more redstone output there's going to be. However, no one really cares about that. What redstoners do care about, if you haven't noticed, I've been using target blocks a lot, and that's because it drags the redstone signal into it, right? So let's say you come over here. This is not going to work because the redstone signal passes. The target block drags redstone in, and it's going to light the thing on top. Very, very useful. It's used so you don't have to place a bunch of repeaters on the blocks. You can just place target blocks. Very, very useful, and I've been using it a lot, and I'm going to keep using it throughout the video. Now let's move on to music blocks, or they're not called that, they're called note blocks, which is pretty much going to play a sound. Now the regular is just going to be a piano, and when you right click it, you can change the pitch. Once you figure out your pitch, you can use a piece of redstone and play that sound. Now here is from the Minecraft wiki, the different pitches in the piano. However, piano definitely gets boring. So let's come over to a bunch of different types of blocks, which are going to play different sounds depending on the block below. Now, if you want to look at all of these more in depth, once again, you could download this world. However, as you can see, they all play a different sound. But something I learned when making this video, it also works with mob heads on top. However, if you have a player head on top, we don't know what sound we make, so it's not going to make any sound at all. So music discs, note blocks, are very, very cool. And you can also use this to make different songs, which I have not attempted to do, but you can play a bunch of them, have redstone, and you can make a beautiful song. Speaking of beauty, let's go over to TNT. I think we all know what TNT is, but just in case you don't, boom. That's it. It explodes. It can be lit with redstone block, redstone torch, flint and steel, lever button, pretty much anything that sends a redstone signal. It can do a lot more than this. This is just an example. And since I know you guys want to see it, here you go. You light TNT and it's going to blow up. Very self-explanatory. Okay, let's move on to something that's not self-explanatory, like the daylight detector. So this thing is very, very fun, and there's a lot of things that you can do with it. For example, it sends a redstone signal during the daytime, and so you can light things. However, you can also right click on it, change it to night mode, and now it is going to work during nighttime, right? So turning this on, as you can see, if I turn it to night, it is now going to turn off. However, if we switch it, it's going to be on, right? So that's off. And then if we turn it back to day, it is going to turn on. It detects daylight. Very, very simple. So let's come over here. This can be used for some useful things like automatic lights. So there you go. It turns nighttime. Now your beautiful path is going to be lit up. And then once it turns daytime, it is automatically going to turn off again. And this is easy because you can actually just place the detector on top of the thing you want to power. And there you go. That is going to be working. Now, something else I want to mention as well is they send a different level of redstone depending on not only the time of day, but also the weather. So right now it's noon and it's clear skies. So this is going to be outputting a maximum of 15. However, let's say that it was midnight. It's not going to do anything. If it was almost nighttime, it's going to be doing 1. If it's somewhere in the middle of the day, it's going to be doing a couple. And then of course, if it's noon, it's going to be outputting the maximum redstone. Now, however, let's say that it's also raining. Well, as you can see now, there's less sky and it is going to go down a little bit, right? Let's say it's thundering and daytime. Now it's going to go down way more, right? All the way down here. However, if we turn it back to clear skies, it is going to speed up again. So it just depends on the clearness of the skies as well. Very, very cool. And as well, the same thing is going to work if it is in night mode as well. Now you might be thinking, oh, okay, so this just detects light. It doesn't detect daylight. Well, no, it has to be to the sky. Let's go to something else cool. Come into my basement, everybody. As you can see, this is still working even though we're underground, but it's because it can see the sky. The second I cut off that light, it is now no longer working because it cannot see the sky. If it can see it, it's on. If it can't see it, it's off. However, you turn it to night mode and it's going to turn on. Well, you might be thinking that's because it's dark down here. Well, no, it's because it cannot see the sky. And if you come into literally the brightest room possible, as you can see, it's in night mode, but it is still working because it cannot see the sky. But the second it can, it's going to turn off. If it's fully hidden, it turns back on. So that's pretty cool. It's going to detect daylight, and it does need to be able to see the sky. Daylight detector, or I guess also nightlight detector, pretty cool. And with that, let's move on to redstone lamps. Now, you've been seeing me use these a ton. I'm finally going to explain. It's very simple. It's a lamp activated by redstone. Not that complicated, right? Very simple. It's going to output a maximum light level of 15. It can also be lit with things like redstone blocks, redstone torches, or any redstone source. However, it won't work if it's on the top, and it also won't work if it's on the side. However, it will work if it's kind of diagonal to the block like this, or it's also going to work if the redstone signal is just directly underneath it as well. So yeah, that's about it. Very, very simple. Not a whole lot special, but let's move on to something that is special, the copper bulb, which I didn't even know existed until making this video. Turn it to nighttime so you can see easier. With the redstone lamp, you add power, and then once there's no power, it turns off. With the copper bulb, you add power, and then it stays on. So unlike this, it is going to stay on regardless of if there is powering, or if there's redstone powering it. The light level depends on what type of bulb you have. So if it's regular copper, it's going to be the brightest. Exposed is going to be a little less, and this is waxed, by the way. That's why there's two, right? There's going to be weathered, and then there's going to be oxidized, where you can see it is getting significantly brighter as it gets newer. And again, just showing you, this is going to turn off. So it's very simple. It's going to turn on and stay on, or turn off and stay off, which is very, very cool. So yeah, copper bulbs, that's about it. It's just kind of like a better redstone lamp. Now, let's come over to the trapped chest. This one is a lot of fun, and I'm going to show you guys how it works. So everybody say hello to my handy dandy alt account here. I'm going to need him to show you how trapped chests work. Now, as we know, chests can output a redstone signal. Like I said earlier, the more items you have, the more items you put in with a comparator behind it. And there you go. It is going to output more depending on that. This also works with trapped chests. However, trapped chests are going to send a redstone signal when they are open. So as you can see, it's only sending a redstone signal of 1, which is pretty cool. However, if I bring my alt account around here and I also open up the chest, as you can see, it's outputting 2 because there's 2 people in this chest. If there was 3, it outputs 3, 4, it outputs 4, and so on. And that is just very simple, pretty cool. However, most people aren't going to care about that. It's just something I thought I'd mention. Now, bye-bye. Trap chests can be activated from any one of the 4 sides with repeaters, with redstone, whatever you want. It can also be activated from underneath, or the most common, it can be activated from behind. And this is going to revert or change the redstone torch from off to on to off, whatever. I can't speak. Now, this right here can be used for some very cool things. If you guys like my little house I've made, you walk in, this is your beautiful chest room with all of your items. If somebody tries to steal your goodies, boom, they fall down into a trap and they now die. So that's a trap chest. You can use a redstone signal to do stuff like this. If you want to learn how to do that, I'm going to show you at the end of the video. But redstone chests, trap chests, whatever they're called, very, very fun for making traps. That's exactly what they're called. So there you go. Trap chests. Let's now move on to the final redstone thing, which is going to be the copper, or what do you call the lightning rod? Not copper. The lightning rod, which is going to send a redstone signal if lightning strikes it. So let's say it's raining or thunderstorming out. If it strikes naturally, that's going to work. But also if you have a channel a channeling trident and you throw it, as you can see, that outputs a maximum 15 power. And also, if you'll notice all the way at the end, it is also activating that bell. So if you wanted to have like a watchtower with a lightning rod at the top, you'll know every time it is thunderstorming because you can make a noise. You can play a note block trail, literally whatever you want. It's just kind of fun to watch. That's about it. Pretty simple, but very, very cool. So there you go. That was every single redstone component in the game, my best way of explaining how it works, and a bunch of examples. We're now going to get into how to activate redstone, a bunch of different ways, the differences between buttons, pressure plates, everything like that. And then afterwards, a bunch of different redstone mechanics. Once again, really quickly, if you're enjoying, make sure to leave a like and subscribe because this video took me literally over 50 hours to make. And that was all in 1 week. So this took a long time. Anyways, how to activate redstone. I know if you've already watched this whole video, you probably understand by now. But in case you skipped to here, you activate redstone by using a redstone source, such as a block of redstone or a redstone torch. And this is going to send a redstone signal. This is also going to work with buttons. So buttons is one thing, you click it, it's going to turn the redstone signal on and then turn it off. Now a wooden button is going to last for 1.5 seconds. They're all the same. However, a stone button is heavier. It's only going to last for a second. So as you can see, even if I click the wood one first, the stone one is going to go out because it doesn't last for as long. So stone buttons aren't going to last for as long. You can also come over to a lever, which is similar to a button, but it's simply going to add a constant power source. And these levers can be placed pretty much anywhere around this, and it is also going to work. Very simple and probably the most common and the cheapest way to light anything. Coming over to tripwire hooks, it's exactly what it sounds like, a tripwire. So you have 2 tripwire hooks, you place some string in between, and if someone walks over it, it's going to send a redstone signal. Great for booby traps. You can also find these in jungle temples in actual Minecraft. Now the redstone can go on the top. It can go on one of the sides as well. If I break that, you can see. And the redstone can go underneath as well. So you can use redstone around these and activate a trap or do literally whatever you want. Now, let's move over to the pressure plate. The wooden pressure plate can be activated by any entity. So as you can see, all of the wooden pressure plates are the same. You step on it and it's going to send a redstone signal. And as well, if you drop an item onto these wooden pressure plates, it's also going to send a redstone signal. That is where it differs from a stone one, where it is only going to be activated by mobs or players. So as you can see, walking on these, it's going to be the exact same thing. However, items thrown onto here are not going to work. Now, it gets interesting when you come over to the golden iron, also known as the light and the heavy pressure plates. Now, as you can see, when I stand on this, this is going to output a maximum strength of 15. However, these are only going to output a signal strength of 1. Now, for the light pressure plate, it's going to add 1 signal strength for every entity that's on top of here, right? So if I throw an item on top of there, that's 1. If I throw a lot of items, it's going to be more. However, they stack together. It's not quantity of items. It's going to be different items, right? So what you're going to have to do is take a bunch of different types of items. And there you go. Now with every one of these that land on top of it, you can now increase it by 1, right? So that's pretty cool. And I'm going to show you a really, really cool trick down by that weird stone block down there. I'm going to show you guys how you can use that to make a hidden door. Now the heavy one is going to be the exact same. However, it's for every 10 entities on here, which is crazy. So let's grab a bunch of random things here. The first one is going to be activated by just 1 single one. If you want to activate the second one, you have to throw 10 separate entities on top of here. Let me throw some of these as well, just to get 1 more signal to be produced. I don't know when or how you're going to need to use this, but it also works if you have 10 separate mobs on here. So maybe you can figure out how to do something with that as well. So there you go. That is every redstone signal explained. We're now going to get into a bunch of different redstone contraptions, and to be more specific, 15 different contraptions. A bunch of these things I've mentioned throughout the video. A couple of them I haven't, but they're just very useful. You're going to want to know how to build these. The first one is going to be something called a T flip-flop. Now, pretty much it turns a button into a lever. And what I mean by that is a button just sends a pulse and then it turns off. But let's say you don't want the button to turn off the signal. You can build a small contraption like this. where there's going to be a dropper that is facing upwards into a dropper that is facing forwards into a hopper with a comparator and a piece of redstone with your input. Now, what all of this means is when I flick this button, this is going to shoot up into here, the item down there, which is then going to sit in this top thing. The comparator is going to read it, and now it's going to stay on. You flick it again, it gets shot into the hopper and it turns off. So this is going to be a constant redstone signal from a flick of a button. Now the same thing works coming over here. You have 2 redstone signal. This is going to dispense the water, change the comparator output, and it's going to change it to 1, change it back to 2 when it picks it back up. And the exact same thing is going to work with bells, since in Bedrock, they only send 1 tick. So there you go, you do that and it's going to send that. And there you go, you can do that again. Here is what all of these look like. And once again, if you want to build these in more depth, you can download this world. Now there is one more design that you can use, which is without a doubt the easiest one. It's with the copper bulb. Since you can put a comparator to read the output, when you use a button, it's going to stay on. So the comparator is going to stay on. And then you flick the button again and it turns off. Very simple, so you don't really have to build any of those if you don't want to. Something even more useful though, like I showed you earlier, is the auto sorter. And like I mentioned, it's simply going to automatically sort all of these items. So I showed you earlier, but I'll show you again. You put all of these into here. It's going to put the gold into the gold, diamond into diamond, emerald there, and then all of the junk items into this end chest. Here is just kind of a little breakdown on how this looks. There's some redstone torches down there. Comparators up here. If you want an in-depth tutorial on how to build this, you can click the link up here right now. Now, what kind of goes hand in hand with that, apples and oranges, 2 peas in a pod, the super smelter. Super smelter is something that I hinted at earlier as well. It's very simple if you hate putting the items into the furnaces yourself. You have 2 chest minecarts that are going to run across rails. You have the item you want to smelt here. You have your fuel back here, which goes into this. And then when you flick this lever, it activates it and it evenly distributes all of the items into all of these furnaces. And then once they're done smelting, as you can see, it's very even. It works really well. It gets picked up by the hopper and all of the drops are going to go down into this chest. Now, once again, if you want a full in-depth tutorial, we've got that on our channel. And yeah, so super smelters, it pretty much just uses a bunch of the different things that we've learned. Hoppers, minecarts, furnaces, I mean, so many things here. So you can really piece together a bunch of the things that we've taught you and put it together to make some very cool things. Speaking of which, Redstone Clocks. Very useful if you want to send redstone signals over and over and over indefinitely forever. This is one of the most simple ones. You literally just take some redstone repeaters and you place it like that. You place it in a circle, you keep going like this, and there you go. You tick this so it's not too fast. Beautiful redstone clock. But there's a bunch of different iterations, a bunch of different ways that you can do this. This is one, it's the easiest. I did show you this one as well. This is the fastest one in the game with the comparator. I also showed you this one where you can place 2 observers facing into each other. That is also going to be a redstone clock, right? So there's a bunch of different options that you can do here. As well, this one, which I was showing you earlier, was an item clock, right? Where you can take however many items you want. You can put them inside of that hopper, and there you go. That is also a clock. And of course, the more items that I put inside of here, the longer it's going to take and the slower this is going to move. And if you're curious, here's a bird's eye view on how you're going to want to build this thing. And once again, of course, you can just come to this world, download it, try it out for yourself. Now, let's move over to the block swapper. This is something that I showed you earlier. It's going to swap the blocks. This is honestly one of the coolest things that I've seen in Redstone. And I've seen a lot of cool things, but honestly, it's so simple. If you're curious, this is how you're going to build it. I don't need a tutorial for you. You can just look at this and build it yourself, right? It reads a bunch of things, pushes pistons in a specific way, pulls stuff down, blah, 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 who cares? Boom, there you go. It is going to shoot out a new item. And of course, this can be any item that can be pushed or pulled by a sticky piston. Coming over here, we also have the Droppervator, which I talked about earlier. Now, this works by putting items in this top chest. This observer reads when the items are taken out of the chest, which is then going to send a signal down into this observer, send it up the redstone torch line, up into these, and it's a Droppervator, it's a dropper elevator, and I forgot the piece of redstone right there. There you go. Now it's going to send the signal down, and there you go. It is going to send it up, and beautiful, sending the items out the top. Droppervator, dropper elevator. Moving on to the trapped chest trap. This is what I showed you earlier in that house, where you can actually have it so that if they open your goodies, it's going to pull these blocks away. Now this works by having a redstone torch behind, so it's going to be activated. And then whenever you open it, it reverts the signal and it pulls it back. Now you can either run the signal down and use some target blocks to divert it into the piston, or if you want to be a nerd, you can just place redstone repeaters as well. That's going to be a little slower. Now also in Bedrock Edition, it's just going to kind of pull you with it. So if you want to actually have the trap work, you are going to have some blocks here. There you go. They open up your valuables chest and they fall down to their death. This is very fun to make and very fun to mess around with. Something else that's fun to mess around with is piston doors. Now, very simple. You walk through, they open up and they close on their own. This one is with a pressure plate and it's pretty simple. You just have some redstone down there, right? You have your pressure plates over there and then you have your sticky piston. You have a redstone torch here that's going to be lighting both of these pistons so they're extended. And then when you step on the pressure plate, it is going to invert the signal, right? So if I do this, as you can see, it inverts the signal of that, opening the doors. It's very simple. It's not that complicated. However, if you don't want to use pressure plates, you can do the exact same thing with either a lever, or you can do the same thing with a button as well. And if you want to do that one, you can pretty much build it off of this right here. It is a very similar thing. Now, something else I want to show you guys is a cool hidden door mechanic. This is super cool. So watch this. Let's say you have a little house in a mountain here. You're going to walk inside. People are going to think this is your house. They see nothing. They walk away boring. If you remember, these pressure plates are going to send a different signal depending on how many entities are on it. So what you can do is stand here, throw an item, and it's going to open a hidden compartment, right? Or you can throw two items. It's going to throw a hidden door. So people think that's what you're actually going for. Well, no, it is this hidden compartment down here where you can then hide a fun little hidden base. So yeah, very cool. And once again, if you want to learn how to build this, download the world. Now, coming over here to a lever lock. These are very cool where you have a random array of levers. You don't know what is what, right? You don't know what the password is. It's not going to open the door. You have to activate a specific sequence of levers. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. And there you go. It is now going to open up the door. Now I'm going to be honest. There's a lot going on back here. I understand how it works, but I would not have been able to build it myself. I actually watched a 9-year-old tutorial by QB. So if you want to check that out, there's also going to be a link down in the description on how to build this lever lock, because it's very cool, but also extremely complicated. Let's move on to something super useful and not too complicated, a hopper minecart unloader, or any minecart unloader for that matter. Now, let's say you have a bunch of items inside of your hopper minecart, or chest minecart, sorry, any minecart, and you want to unload it into this hopper. Well, the problem is it's just going to bounce back and forth and only do one item at a time. So what you can do is set up a minecart unloader. So once it goes up there, it's going to be activated by the comparator, activate the redstone, activate that, and it's going to deactivate this repeater rail here. And now all of the items are being emptied into here. And then once that empties out, it's going to reactivate that and it's going to go back forward. If there's nothing inside of this, it's just going to go anyways. And if there's items, it is going to unload it. This is a very useful mechanic for a lot of different farms, and I'd recommend learning how to build this thing. Now, I'd also recommend learning how to build gates, and pretty much a gate works. So you need a specific sequence of levers to turn on or off a redstone signal. So for example, this one, when they are both, if one of them is on, it's going to work. If both of them are on, it will, but they don't both have to be on. Only one of these two levers has to be on for this one to work. As you can see, it's very simple. If either one of them is on, it's going to be on. Now for this one, when they're both off, it's going to be on. And if even one single one is turned on, it's going to turn it off. So it doesn't matter which one of these are turned on, it's going to invert the signal over there. And then the same thing works over here, but a little differently. If either one of these switches are turned on, there you go, it's going to turn it on. If they're both on, doesn't matter, but if they're both off, it'll be off. Very simple, and that is the different redstone gates. And that is your ultimate beginner's redstone guide. If I missed anything, please let me know down below and I will happily pin a comment. Leave a like and subscribe for more. You could download this world down in the description, And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. BlazedMC out.